All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today we are diving into one of the biggest, maybe the biggest words in faith, salvation. You hear it all the time, right? But what does it actually mean? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to break this whole thing down, looking at it from four really different angles, all straight from some core texts.
So, let's just ask the big question right up front. What does salvation truly mean? Is it, being rescued from some kind of physical danger? Or is it more of an internal, spiritual thing? Maybe something else entirely? Well, the really cool thing we're about to find out is that the answer is kinda yes to all of it. And then some.
Okay, so here's the game plan. We're going to look at salvation as divine help, then as getting a new life, then what it means in times of ruin, and finally, how it connects to an anointed king. And at the end, we'll pull it all together to see the complete picture. Let's get into it.
All right, first up, salvation by divine help. We're kicking things off with this idea of salvation as like direct, supernatural intervention. And to get our heads around this, we're jumping into a story from 1 Samuel, right in the middle of a huge national crisis for ancient Israel. Okay, so check this out. At the heart of this story is this concept of the Ebenezer. After God steps in this really dramatic way, the prophet Samuel puts up a literal stone monument. He calls it a stone of help. It's this physical, tangible thing to make sure nobody ever forgets, hey, our help, our salvation, it came from God. It's a powerful idea, and you can see how that term is even stuck around through history and across different languages. And this is where it gets really interesting, because you see this huge conflict play out. On one hand, you've got this incredible, undeniable proof of God's power. I mean, he literally defeats an army with loud thunder. You can't make that up. But then, almost in the next breath, what do the people do? They ask for a human king, just so they can be like all the other nations. It's this amazing tension, right? Do you trust in this incredible divine power you've just seen? Or do you fall back on what feels safe and familiar, like a human system? Okay, so that's salvation from an external enemy, an army you can see. But what if the biggest threat isn't out there, but in here? And that brings us to our second facet, salvation through new life. This is all about deep, personal transformation. And for this, we're shifting gears and heading over to the book of Romans. This quote from Romans 6, wow, it just cuts right to the chase. The whole idea here is that the real battle isn't against an army of Philistines, it's against the power of sin within us. So salvation, from this point of view, is about being completely set free from that power. The battlefield literally moves from the world outside to the world inside each person. So how does this actually work? How do you get this inner salvation? Well, the text lays out a pretty clear pathway, a kind of progression. It starts with being united with Christ in his death. That's what destroys the power of what it calls the body of sin, or our old self. From there, you're freed from sin's grip, which then lets you become truly alive to God. It's like a total personal reboot. All right, we've talked about salvation from an outside threat and an inside one. But what happens when there's no escape? When your entire world is just collapsing? I mean, everything. This is our third facet, salvation in times of ruin. And for this, we're turning to the message in Jeremiah 45. And the scene here is bleak. I mean, incredibly bleak. This is God speaking right as the nation of Judah is being destroyed. And the language used is just absolute. What I have built, I will demolish. What I have planted, I will uproot. This is not a minor setback. This is the end of their world as they know it. The very foundations are being ripped up. And then right in the middle of all that chaos and destruction, God makes this incredibly stark and powerful promise to one guy, a man named Baruch. Just think about that for a second. I will give you your life as a prize of war. When you've lost everything, your country, your home, your entire way of life, salvation can look like just surviving, just walking away with your life. That's the prize. It's a really raw, almost primal kind of rescue. Okay, so we've seen salvation as a big event, right? Something that happens to you either outside or inside. But this last facet, it introduces a whole new layer. It ties salvation directly to a person, to salvation's anointed king. And for this, we're jumping into Psalms 20 and 21. So, Psalm 20, it's basically a prayer for the king from the whole nation. Imagine he's about to go into a huge battle, and you can just feel how all their hopes are pinned on this one person. They're praying, "May the Lord answer you, may he protect you." They believe that the Lord saves his anointed. So, in this way of thinking, the king is like the conduit, the channel for God's saving power to reach the people. Their fate is completely tied up with his.
Okay, but here's the really crucial leap that the source material makes. It sees this earthly king as more than just a king. He's a foreshadowing, a signpost, pointing to someone greater. That title, Anointed One, in Hebrew that's Messiah, is ultimately seen as pointing directly to Jesus Christ, the ultimate agent of salvation, not just for one nation, but for everyone.
Wow. Okay, so we've looked at 4 really different ideas, haven't we? A supernatural thunderstorm rescue, a deep inner change, just barely surviving a total collapse, and a king who saves his people. So now let's pull all these threads together and see what the complete picture of salvation looks like.
So when we put it all together, what is salvation? Well, it's divine help, that supernatural intervention when you're up against impossible odds. It's a new life, that total inner transformation that sets you free from the inside out. It's preservation, being rescued from the rubble when everything else is gone. And it's rescue through an anointed king, a specific person sent to save. You know, when you see all 4 of these facets together, it just blows up the whole idea of what salvation is. It's not just one simple thing. It's this rich, complex, multi-sided answer to all the different kinds of trouble we find ourselves in. And that kind of leaves us with one last question to chew on, doesn't it? If salvation really is this big and has all these different faces, which one, for you, changes how you see everything the most?